The basic construct of the employee value proposition hasn't changed. I mean, we're still looking at purpose of the organization, total rewards, the nature of work, and the peer group in which an individual works with is the foundation of the employee value proposition. So when I'm asked as to what's new about the employee value proposition, I think we're seeing a lot of new challenges with it. The employee value proposition used to be a kind of a fixed thing. You looked at the purpose of the organization, it could be well defined. The role that that person played within the organization was clearly also well defined. You could entice an individual with the challenging peer group that they may be working with, and of course the total rewards package was one in which you could make a decision on whether or not you wanted to stay or join an organization based on. It was a pretty simple set of criteria to define what an EVP was. That's pretty much all changed now. So the purpose of the organization could be quite different today than it was a week ago or a year from now. So whereas package delivery companies have now become logistic companies, if we look at automotive manufacturers now being multimodal or mobility organizations, the purpose is evolving. It's a fast evolution. Along with that, then the roles change. The criteria for which an organization needs talent, the role in which an individual is performing, all changes. The peer group becomes more rotational, or a different set of peers come in to solve a problem and then move on. So lots of change going on in the EVP. Specifically though around total rewards, I think that's the one element that seems to be in the traditional comp and benefits space, one in which there's a desire to be fixed for a while, right? That too needs to evolve almost on a constant basis. So as we look at kind of what that EVP is or was, it was a reflection, a mirror to the organization that could be well articulated. Well, that mirror now has a lot of movement. So the articulation of the EVP needs to be on a kind of a cyclical review process because it evolves over time. The role of the total rewards professional is one of greater challenge today. It is one in which an understanding of the talent base is going to be more critical. Yes, peer group benchmarking is still going to be very important, but it's almost an opportunity to look at what the organization actually wants to accomplish and what it wants to be. That should really drive the total rewards package more so than an external benchmark from a traditional industry. Organizations within the same industry are also moving in different directions with different purposes. So the required talent from one entity to the next that are viewed as traditional competitors could be very different. So doing those common benchmarks of old may not set your talent direction for the future. The future of work, which is really kind of work now. I think we've been talking about future of work for a little while now, and a lot of different organizations have acknowledged that as a term, a new term being introduced into common language within HR. But the future of work is really now. Artificial intelligence is changing roles. The purpose that an organization, as an organization defines itself, is changing based on technology. So work today is really the future of work. Having said that, I think the traditional view of a employee, whether it's a long-term employee or even a short-term employee, is changing as we introduce the concept of a contractor and a contractor value proposition versus an EVP with a simple, occasional contractor that comes in and gets some work done and then kind of disappears, or a contractor that you bring in to determine whether or not they're going to be a longer-term employee over time. The gig economy is essentially changing the role of how work gets done today, but it also changes the need for an organization to position itself to be an employer or contractor employer of choice. So that contractor may have multiple choices now. Who do I work with? Do I work with an insurance company? Do I work with an automotive company? Do I work with a high-tech company? What am I going to get out of that relationship as much as what are they going to get from me? I don't think organizations have really thought that through. Traditionally, a contractor may be positioned as a third wheel, so to speak, a temporary employee that you don't necessarily need to engage deeply with. That's kind of changing a bit because we want contractors or that gig economy to want to be part of your organization, even if for a limited period of time. So how does that change the view of that overall value proposition? And alternatively, how does that affect the longer-term employee? Do they start questioning whether or not they should be an employee in the organization? Would they be better off as a contractor? Would there be greater opportunity? So there's a great balancing act that has to happen as organizations sort through that value proposition.